From the outside, we looked like success incarnate. Two young entrepreneurs, co-founders of a thriving tech startup in downtown Chicago. Clean branding, sleek investor decks, a minimalist glass office with ping-pong tables and beanbags in the corner. The kind of place you'd expect to see in a Wired magazine feature or a Silicon Valley recruitment ad. And at the heart of it, me, Jordan Carr, and my co-founder and supposed best friend, Leo Fraser, that we met at Northwestern, bonded over cold brew, late-night hackathons, and dreams of disrupting something. Anything. By the time we graduated, we had launched Refined Metrics, a data visualization platform for medium-sized businesses. 3 years later, we had 40 clients, a small but hungry dev team, and we're beginning to attract serious investor attention. IT was everything I ever wanted. And Leo? He was the engine, the charisma, the guy who could sell ice to Antarctica. I was the back-end guy, the CTO, the quiet architect, the workhorse. IT worked. Until it didn't. It started subtly. One morning, our intern Emily told me she couldn't access one of the vendor dashboards. Login failure. Not a big deal. We'd had minor glitches before. But then, the next day, our marketing lead mentioned a bounced payment. Then 2 bounced payments. Then payroll processed late. I tried to log into our bank account. Access denied. I blinked at the screen, reread the error message, then typed again. Same result. Must be a back-end error, I muttered, trying not to panic. I sent a message to Leo. Hey, can you check the business account? I'm locked out for some reason. No response. Odd, but not unheard of. Leo often disappeared for hours. Meetings, investor calls, networking, events. I called straight to voicemail. I logged into the admin dashboard of our finance software, only to find a single notification blinking in red. Account access revoked by administrator. Wait, what? There was only one other administrator, Leo. I left the office without telling anyone and headed straight for the bank. The manager, an older guy named Thomas who had worked with us since year 1, welcomed me into his office. His smile faded quickly as I explained why I was there. Jordan, I assumed you were in the loop, he said carefully. In the loop for what? I asked. He shifted uncomfortably, then pulled up some files on his screen. There were several large wire transfers last night, all to offshore accounts. Cayman Islands, Singapore, Dubai. My mouth went dry. How much? I asked. He hesitated. Everything. I stared at him. What do you mean, everything? The entire corporate balance, $2.7 million. The words didn't register at first. Then the heat rose in my neck, my ears. I stood up, gripping the edge of his desk. There must be a mistake. I didn't authorize anything. He looked uneasy. Leo did. He came in yesterday afternoon, had the paperwork prepared, said the board was restructuring, that you were stepping down due to personal concerns. What? He showed me the forms. My name was forged, but it looked almost perfect. I didn't sign any of this, I said. Thomas sighed. I'm going to have to report this. Back at the office, Leo's desk was cleared out. His nameplate, laptop, framed picture with our first client, gone. His Slack account, deleted. He didn't just drain our funds. He disappeared. No emails. No notes. No goodbyes. Gone. I sat in the middle of our open plan office, lights buzzing overhead, while the hum of keyboards and quiet laughter filled the space. Nobody else knew yet. I just found out our entire company's future had vanished into thin air. And somehow, I had to explain this. That night, I barely slept. My thoughts raced. The betrayal, the shock. But under all that, a question pulsed, steadily in the back of my mind. Why? Leo had access. He had influence. But we were building something real, something valuable. Why would he throw it away? Unless this wasn't spontaneous. Unless this had been planned. I opened my personal laptop. I had to know more. There had to be a trail, emails, hidden accounts, a motive. Leo was smart, but I knew him. His habits, his shortcuts. And if he thought I'd let this go quietly, he had no idea what was coming. Asterisk, I didn't go to the police right away. That might sound insane, considering Leo stole $2.7 million and torched everything we built. But the truth was, I didn't know what I'd even tell them. There were no physical threats, no security footage showing him walking out with a bag of cash. Just forged documents, digital transfers, and one ghost of a man who knew our system better than I did. I needed evidence. I started digging. First stop, our shared Google Drive. Leo always worked from his own subfolders: investor pitches, client reports, personal notes. I had access to most of them, but sometime between Tuesday night and Wednesday morning, they had all been wiped, except for one. A single folder titled Archive. I almost missed it. It was buried in an old 2019 folder from our beta testing days. Inside, one document, just one, exit strategy.docs. My stomach twisted as I clicked it open. It was short, brutally short. If you're reading this, then you know. I didn't plan on telling you this way, but you left me no choice. You got too comfortable, Jordan. Too naive. You still believe in loyalty, in partnerships. You believed I was your friend. I stopped being that years ago. I built, refined metrics. Not you. You wrote the code, sure, but I got the clients. I got the money. I made people believe in us. And now I'm taking what's mine. Do yourself a favor. Don't chase me. It won't end well. No signature. No IP metadata. Just that .it hit like a punch in the gut. But it also told me something I already suspected. This wasn't impulsive. This was calculated. And Leo wasn't just running. He wanted me to follow. I drove to his apartment that night. Third floor walk-up on North Racine. He hadn't answered the buzzer in days. I pounded on the door like a maniac. No response. A neighbor cracked her door. You looking for Leo? Yeah. He moved out 2 days ago. Early morning. Big duffel bags. Lots of noise. Didn't even say goodbye. Did you see where he went? She shrugged. Cab showed up around 4 a.m. I figured he was running from something. She wasn't wrong. Back. Home. I dove into every account I could think of. Old email backups. Password managers. Even a couple of shared Slack messages from 6 months back that mentioned a secondary domain name. refinedblack.io. I'd forgotten about it. It was from an early rebranding experiment we scrapped before launch. But something about the name nagged at me. I opened the domain in my browser. Nothing. But when I ran a DNS trace, I found something. It had been updated 3 days ago, pointed to a hidden subdomain. Protected. Password lock. I knew Leo's patterns. Knew his bad habits. I tried a few obvious passwords, old inside jokes, favorite books, the name of his cat, Findered, no luck. Then I remembered something odd from months back. Leo always typed one specific passphrase during demos when no one was watching. Fast, discreet. I'd once glanced over and caught the first few letters. Golden Rook 1986. I tried it. The screen flashed. Welcome to Refined Black Private Node.it was a treasure trove. Client data. Private emails. Contracts with investors I'd never seen. But, most damning of all, copies of internal communications between Leo and someone named Laughingface. Ashcroft. They went back over a year. Ashcroft wasn't a name I recognized, but the content made my skin crawl. One thread stood out. From Leo to D. Ashcroft. Final transfer in 48 hours. Jordan still thinks we're prepping for Series B. You'll have the Cayman Shell account ready. Reply. Everything's in place. As long as you deliver the full package, we're square. And Jordan? He's just a coder. He'll crumble. Leo? He'll look for me. That's fine. I left enough breadcrumbs. If he follows them, we pivot. Pivot to what, exactly? Last message ended with coordinates. A string of numbers. I copied them into Google Maps. The pin dropped on a cabin.in Wisconsin. I sat staring at the screen. It felt insane. Like I was walking into some noir cyber thriller. But Leo had done something stupid. He left a path, and I wasn't ready to let him vanish into the dark, not without answers, not without justice. Next morning, I packed a bag, told my assistant I'd be off-grid for the weekend. That part wasn't a lie. I borrowed a friend's old Ford Bronco and started driving north. The coordinates led me to a two-lane road, thick forest on both sides. A light fog had rolled in. Sunlight pierced the trees in narrow beams. Then I saw it. A one-story cabin, half buried in brush, like it hadn't been visited in years. The mailbox read Anders, definitely not Leo. But the lock on the front door was shiny and new. I knocked. No answer. I circled to the back. The back window was cracked open. Leo always underestimated me. He thought I was too polite to break into a place that I wasn't polite anymore. I climbed in. Inside, the place was a mess. Boxes, old tech gear, dusty furniture. But also monitors, stacks of hard drives, and a whiteboard covered in handwritten notes. Client names, bank accounts, Timelines.at the center of it all. A picture of me and Leo from our first pitch competition. Red marker X'd over my face. That's when I heard the door creak open. Footsteps. I froze, heart hammering, crouched behind an old recliner. A man walked in, not Leo, tall, thin, balding, expensive coat, holding a laptop bag. Ashcroft, he walked right past me, muttering to himself, opened a panel in the floorboards and pulled out a secure case that he placed the laptop inside, locked it, and stood. I snapped a photo of his face and the case before. He turned, he saw me. We both froze. Then he ran. I chased him out into the woods, but he was fast, too fast. Within seconds, he disappeared into the fog, but I had what I needed, his face, and proof that Leo wasn't working alone. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the couch with the lights off, my laptop open, endlessly refreshing our bank dashboard, hoping, stupidly, that maybe it was all just a glitch, that I'd blink and everything would return to normal, but it didn't. The $412,000 that had been in our shared business account the previous afternoon was still gone. No activity, no pending transfers, no record of any returned. At 3:22 a.m., I finally gave up and called Julia again. Straight to voicemail. I sent her another message. Please, just talk to me. We can figure this out. I didn't even know why. I was begging. Was it guilt? Shock? Or some part of me still believing she wouldn't do this? But I couldn't deny the facts anymore. She had logged in. She had transferred every cent to a private offshore account in the Cayman Islands. And she had vanished. The next morning, I went to the police. They asked all the usual questions. When did you notice the money was missing? Do you have joint access? Were there any signs of conflict? I answered as calmly as I could, handed them printed screenshots of the transfers, explained how everything had happened. Do you know where your partner might be now? The detective asked. No idea, I said truthfully. She's not answering anything, but I think she planned this. His expression didn't change. Do you have any proof of that? I hesitated. Not hard proof, just the feeling. The detective leaned back. We'll need more than a feeling if you want the DA to open a case for grand larceny. We'll begin a report, but with the funds going offshore, this might get tied up in jurisdiction. Jurisdiction? I nearly lost it. You're telling me she steals our money, flees the country, and there's a chance you can't even touch her? He gave me a look that said, this isn't a movie, kid. The next few days blurred into each other. I stopped going to the office. What was the point? I was fielding panicked calls from vendors, clients demanding refunds, employees asking if we could make payroll. I lied to all of them, said it was a banking error, a temporary issue. And then I made a decision that if the law wasn't going to fix this fast enough, I would. I started digging, not just through Julia's emails, but old files, client communications, backup drives. And that's when I found something strange. A folder buried in a forgotten Dropbox link from 3 years ago. Opal_consulting. I didn't recognize the name, but inside were invoices, hundreds of them, from shell companies that didn't exist, addressed to our company, approved by Julia. Every one of them had her digital signature. Amounts varied. $1,200 here, $5,600 there. Nothing massive individually, but totaled over $96,000 siphoned away over 18 months. I sat back in my chair, heart racing. This wasn't a one-time betrayal. She'd been stealing from me for years. I called everyone I knew. A few ex-clients she'd worked with, a CPA friend, one of our earliest contractors. And slowly, a pattern emerged. Julia had always managed our vendor relationships. She'd insisted on it, claimed she was more detail-oriented, that I should focus on the bigger vision. In reality, she was creating fake vendors, approving payments to them, and funneling that money into side accounts, all while I was pitching to investors, growing the brand. She made me the face of the company, so I'd be the one holding the bag. 2 weeks passed. Still no word from Julia. Her phone was dead. No activity on her socials. No replies to any legal notices. And then, just when I was about to give up, I got a message. It was an encrypted email. The subject line read, "Don't come looking." I opened it. You always underestimated me. I was never your sidekick. I was the architect. Take the loss and move on. If you try to find me, I'll make sure you go down for tax fraud, too. Remember, that one summer you asked me to clean up the expense reports? I have copies. You think I can't ruin you from afar? Try me. J.M.Y. hands were shaking. This wasn't just theft. It was war, and she had a head start. Asterisk, the email had rattled me. Not just because Julia had written it in such a smug, calculated tone, but because, deep down, I knew she was telling the truth. She did have leverage. The expense reports, the emails, the signature requests. At the time, they were quick fixes meant to make us look clean for an investor meeting. But now, in hindsight, they looked a lot like complicity. If she ever went down, she'd take me with her. I stared at the message again and again. Take the loss and move on. But how could I? She'd taken everything. My savings, my company, my name, and now my reputation was teetering on the edge of destruction. I had a choice. Crawl into a hole or fight back, smartly. That night, I met with Dan, a forensic accountant I'd worked with once during a messy acquisition. You need a full forensic audit, he said, going through the files I'd brought. I nodded. Can we prove she falsified vendor data? Dan didn't answer right away. Then he said, if these invoices match the IPs I think they will, we'll get location tags. And if the shell companies lead anywhere offshore, I know a guy. What? About the expense reports? The ones she mentioned. He raised an eyebrow. If you self-report any questionable accounting before she does, you gain immunity. But you have to move fast. So we did that. I reported everything to the IRS and to a white-collar crime attorney who agreed to represent me. Painful as it was, I laid out every shady thing we'd ever done, even if it was Julia's idea, even if I thought it was harmless at the time. The cost was high. My company was unsalvageable. The brand was dead. But I was building something more important now, a case. Meanwhile, Dan found something. One of the shell companies, Crimson Bloom Limited, wasn't as fake as the others. It was based in Belize, and though the registered owner was masked behind a service provider, the IP address used to access the account matched a hotel Wi-Fi login in Portugal. And guess who had checked into that hotel 2 weeks earlier? Julia. I froze when Dan showed me the hotel security footage. She was walking through the lobby in sunglasses and a scarf, dragging a beige roller bag behind her like she didn't have a care in the world. The timestamp was 6 days after the theft. She hadn't fled immediately. She'd waited, taunted me with silence. And now she was sipping espresso in Europe like nothing had happened. I shared everything with the FBI agent assigned to my case. Financial crimes were notoriously slow to prosecute, especially when international accounts were involved. But thanks to the self-reporting, the paper trail, and Julia's mistake in using a traceable IP address, we had a foothold. A subpoena was issued. Interpol was notified, and international warrant followed. And just like that, Julia went from being a ghost to a fugitive. I wish I could say they caught her immediately. They didn't. Weeks passed. Then months. I took consulting jobs to stay afloat, sold my car, moved into a smaller apartment. My name had taken a hit, but not a fatal one. The FBI's involvement helped shield me, barely, from full ruin. Then, one night, I got a call. It was Dan. They've got her. He said she'd been arrested in Croatia, trying to board a private yacht to Montenegro. She was carrying a briefcase with multiple passports, a fake identity, and, get this, $80,000 in cash. When they brought her in, she refused to speak. Not a word. But the evidence was overwhelming. Forged vendor accounts, offshore transfers, the threatening email, combined with witness statements, forensic IP logs, and her own digital trail, the case was airtight. A trial. Her defense tried to flip the narrative. Claimed I was the mastermind, that Julia had just followed orders. But it didn't hold. My self-reporting, combined with the timestamps, digital proof, and testimony from multiple third parties, cleared me. Julia was found guilty of wire fraud, conspiracy to commit money laundering, identity fraud, interstate theft, obstruction of justice. She was sentenced to 18 years in federal prison. When I stood outside the courthouse, reporters swarming, I felt nothing. No joy, no relief, just an overwhelming sense of emptiness that I didn't get the money back. Most of it was unrecoverable, split between offshore accounts, crypto wallets, and fake vendors. The few thousand the FBI reclaimed barely covered my legal bills, but I got my name back. And in this world, sometimes, that's the only currency that really matters. Epilogue. A year later, I started again. No big investors. No flashy branding. Just a A small company, me and a laptop. I called it Greylight Consulting. Focused on helping entrepreneurs protect themselves from the exact kind of betrayal I went through. I still get calls about Julia. Her story made a few headlines in the business world. Some called her brilliant. Others called her evil. I try not to think about her at all, but sometimes, late at night, I wonder if she's still playing the long game, plotting, waiting, because the thing about people like her, they don't disappear, they evolve, and next time, she might not make any mistakes at all.